Meet my new friend Barbie. Barbie is a content creator originally from Michigan. Looking for a change in her life, Barbie found herself on the island of Siargao in the Philippines. There, she discovered a deep love for the local people and culture. She now creates videos centered around the beauty and uniqueness of the Philippines. Be sure to check out her content, link below. During our conversation, she shared her insights on the differences between life in America and the Philippines, her experiences adapting to the provincial lifestyle, her appreciation for Filipino cuisine, and so much more. I hope you guys enjoy the video. You're originally from Michigan then? That's where you grew up? So what are you doing in California?
Actually, I just have some friends here, and I was able to get us insurance here. So I'm kind of doing my doctor's appointments here before I go back to the Philippines.
So how long are you back in the States for before you go back?
I think it's going to be about 2 months. I'm planning to go back next week, and I was actually even looking at flights to debate going tomorrow so I can make it for Sinulog and Cebu. I've never been, but I don't want to rush it. So I think just maybe next week I'll go back, but it'll be about 2 months. So that's the longest I've ever been back here since I moved there.
Because you're living in the Philippines full time now, right?
Yeah, you can say that. I moved there 2 years ago, well, a little over 2 years, and I wasn't anticipate moving. That was never the plan, but like I created my home there by accident, and yeah, and everything fell into place. So it's basically like my home base now.
So like, what was your first motivation for going to the Philippines 2 years ago?
So I was living in Miami. I'm from Michigan, and I moved there initially just for like college, university, and kind of same thing, created my life there. And there's a really big culture of Latin Americans. So I was actually like the minority living there, and I loved it. I was the first time I was able to see other cultures, because where I'm from, everybody's just like American and very small town. I feel like a little bit more closed-minded. So when I moved there, it was really cool to see like there's more than just like my small town, and I was so interested in other cultures. Now crazy to see there's so much actually overlap in the culture of like Latin Americans and Filipinos. But I was coaching CrossFit. I had this Facebook group chat called Women Who Do CrossFit. So normally you post, fitness related things. And the owner of a CrossFit Siargao posted that there was a typhoon and their business was completely destroyed, and they've been rebuilding now for already 7 months, and they're ready to reopen in a couple months, and they're looking for volunteer coaches to come down. And I literally scrolled past the post because of course I've heard of the Philippines, promise you couldn't point to it on a map, definitely didn't know where Siargao was. So I'm just like, yeah, that's not possible. And then I swear I just really had this gut feeling, why don't I just at least reply to the post, and then if they even message me, I'll think about it more. One thing led to another. We did many FaceTime calls, and then I started researching like Siargao. I was interested in surfing, and just the whole lifestyle just really sounded so cool to me. I was like, I want to see what's up over there and everything, and I just trusted my gut, and God obviously sent me there for a reason. And just like day one was like I fell in love and everything, and it's just crazy to see like where I'm at now.
Are you interested in learning Tagalog but having trouble finding quality learning materials? Allow me to introduce my Beginner's Tagalog course. 8 years ago, I began teaching myself Tagalog, but I got really frustrated, not only by the complexities of the language, but also the lack of resources for Tagalog. So that's why I decided to create the language course that I wish I had when I started learning. Sign up for my beginner's bundle and get lifetime access to 18 video lessons with corresponding PDF vocabulary sheets. Click the first link down below to get started. Now, back to the video. You had a job already lined up as a coach before you went there?
Yeah, you could say that, because that was like the one thing that also did allow me to push me going there. Because of course I didn't know anything, I didn't know anybody, but at least I was like, you know what, if I get this coaching opportunity, I'll at least meet the other coaches, and I'll coach classes. So like I'm gonna force myself to meet people. So it's not like I'm going in completely like, what the heck? I had that lined up before I went. I didn't know how it was gonna work. I didn't know how I was going to feel. So I was honestly prepared for me to just stay a month or two, and then probably then maybe do Thailand and Bali before I would come back. That was kind of like my idea.
I feel like that happens a lot with people too, where they're like, oh, I'm gonna go to the Philippines just for a couple of weeks for a vacation, and then they end up staying much longer. I've heard that countless times talking to people on my channel. Like, it's a pretty common thing where people fall in love with the Philippines on their first trip. Like, how long did you end up staying at when you first got there, like in your first trip?
2.5 years. I never left.
Oh, you never came back after that?
I almost felt like it's easier that way too, because it wasn't like I told my family, yeah, I'm moving to the Philippines, peace out. The problem actually was I came from Miami, so I was already away from my family. So I'm used to living alone for 4 years. So it wasn't like, this drastic, that change. However, I didn't see my family probably for a year already, because normally I would go back like once once a year when I left because I didn't think I was going for that long. I went there and then I just kept extending. Well, I didn't really have a plan. So I was like, yep, I don't know when I'm coming back. I don't know when. Not yet, not yet. And then it was like, okay, maybe when Christmas came the following year, I would try to think about going back. And it just never really worked out because end up doing many things there in the Philippines.
Yeah, that's crazy. That sounds like an adventure. And yeah, it's kind of gradual. You're not packing up all your stuff today and moving, but the end result is the same. You are moving, you're just doing it like gradually, kind of. When you first got to Siargao, you said that you really liked it. And obviously you liked it enough to stay there for 2 years. What was that about the area that like drew you in and kept you there?
I always say the number one thing is the people. And I know Filipinos in general, are friendliest people. I can't even explain, but I always say I've really become a better person living in the Philippines because I don't know, I just saw that the way they live, the way they treated me, and it just was like the most authentic, supportive community. I've never really felt that, especially where I'm from. And it's not their fault. I definitely like to analyze situations where Americans, sometimes we have to be selfish because, our work life and everything like that. You practically work all day. You barely have time to see your own family, let alone like your immediate family. And you're always kind of striving for that American dream. Like you're just getting by and you're never satisfied. So when I got to the Philippines, it's the opposite, especially in the province life. It's a lot slower paced life. You have time to do things and you have time to like interact with other people every single day. And I just feel like you don't need a lot to be happy. My friends, like they don't have a lot and they come from poverty, but they still take me in like I'm family. They would do anything in a heartbeat for me. And it makes me like, wow, like I want to be able to do that, and care for people in the same way that I feel like they've been able to show me how to love and how to live just happily with nothing. You know what I mean? So it's number one, the people. And then that kind of goes hand in hand with quality of life. I realize what makes me happy is not all these things that I need here in the States. It really opened up my eyes to a lot of things for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic that the people that have the least are usually the most content. At least that seems to be a trend in a lot of places, and especially with Filipinos, like, even just with life circumstances, Filipinos seem to be very resilient. They just kind of take things in stride, and even if things aren't working out, they at least put like a, kind of a happy face on. They try to look for the positives, I think, instead of kind of getting down about it. They're very unique people, I think.
So sometimes, for example, like I see what the people can do there when it comes to life skills and like handiness and willingness to help. My motorbike, can't say how many times would like break down, and not even 30 seconds later, I have 5 kuyas like trying to help me and they fix it like this. They do all this crazy stuff and I'm like, can't even put it into words, but the stuff that they can do is literally incredible. You want a coconut? Boom. One of my guy friends, 2 seconds, climb the tree, this, that, like things I've learned, living there in the Philippines. It's just really cool. And like you said, there was resilience and everything, I feel like for them, nothing is a problem. They always have a solution. They understand that like those things are making you stronger. And
I've only been to the Philippines once. I went in May. That was the first trip that I had there. And I was there for 3 weeks. Obviously had a lot of interactions with Filipino people here in Canada, but going to the Philippines for the very first time was kind of like, a different experience. In a lot of ways it was familiar and in some ways it was new for me. Things like taking the bus, traveling around from one area to another and like trying to find, our accommodation or trying to do this or trying to do that. It's always like a bit confusing in a new environment, but I always felt like there was people there that would help. And I think it helps also that I was like speaking Tagalog with people. I think that they accept you in a different way if you speak in their language. But I think Filipinos just in general are like very helpful and ready to like pitch in and be like, hey, what can I do for you? What are you looking for? Where are you going? You don't always get that in other places. As a foreigner coming to Canada, I don't think you would really find that. If you ask for help, people would help you. But we're not going to go out of our way in the same way that Filipinos do. We're not going to offer help if you don't ask for it.
Yeah, they really go like out of their way and they don't expect anything from it. That's why I really like that also Filipinos are willing to like bring you in and show you their culture. If you give them good energy, they're going to give that right back to you.
Some people are more kind of wired towards wanting to look for alternative lifestyles or maybe open themselves up to different cultures than other people. I grew up in a, small town, kind of a more rural area, and there wasn't a lot of diversity there, right? Not just culturally, but also ideologically. It wasn't until I got a little bit older and I got outside of that bubble and I traveled to different countries that I started to realize, there's a lot of different ways that you can live life. You said Siargao is mostly Bisaya. That's what they speak there.
So they speak a little version of Bisaya called Siargao known, but they all understand Bisaya and Tagalog, but they will in their local language, they speak Siargao known. So which kind of makes it difficult for me because at first I was only learning Siargao known because I was living there, didn't think I'd live anywhere else. Now my audience is all over the Philippines, kind of trying to learn also Tagalog.
There's some main areas where foreigners kind of end up. A lot of people move to Manila, for example. And I know Siargao is a popular place for tourism, but you live there full time and have been for 2 years. So that's kind of a unique experience.
Siargao now, for sure, I can say is getting way more touristy and way more known from even just the first 2 years that I got there, which is like pros and cons, of course. It's really nice to see like the locals do depend a lot on the tourism and stuff like that. But of course, we're scared that it could lose its special touch. But I think it's just like that perfect balance of everything. Where if you want to go be in the province, you could, maybe your family wants to visit and they need a little bit more comfortableness. There's still smaller resorts, but there's nothing yet that's like super, super big and they try not to let chains there. I feel like the locals are what make that place so, so special. But I think most people do respect them so much. So I really hope that will never like affect them in a bad way,
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting balance, right? Between wanting to have tourism to support the local industry, but not losing that local culture. Like I have obviously a much limited experience in the Philippines itself. When I was in Manila, there's lots of neighborhoods that are like a little bit more bougie and they have like a lot of different foreigners living there, especially like Americans and Canadians and Europeans. BGC, for example, right? That's probably the most common one. And even Makati to a certain degree. When I was there, I really didn't like the vibe because it just felt so westernized. It felt so commercial. It didn't feel representative of like how people actually live in the Philippines. Yeah, if you come from the US or you come from Canada and you're earning dollars, you can afford to live in a really nice apartment and you can go to really nice restaurants and clubs and bars. But like local Filipino people aren't doing that at the same rate that everyone else is. It didn't feel authentic and it did kind of have, not with everybody, but it did have a vibe of like a certain demographic of people just wanting to take advantage of the conversion rate. And they didn't care about the culture. And so I felt a little bit like self-conscious when I was in those areas because I was worried that people would associate me with someone who just doesn't care.
Oh gosh, like I could have said that better myself. Definitely not like the city life person, but that's exactly how I felt. Where of course I actually enjoyed when you go off to a little bit more of like the provinces in Manila, because that's again, I just prefer that. But I felt like, why would I need to be in like BGC when it's like feels almost like places in America when I'm in the Philippines? Yeah, I don't like when people associate me as like, oh, it's just another foreigner coming here. Yeah, she has money and like just the assumptions.
Coming from the West, I mean, we know that North Americans can be very materialistic. We also have that culture. Of course we do. We spend money and we show money and we, buy this and we buy that, things that we don't need. But there is something that's like really wrong about people that are doing that in the Philippines when they're literally right next to a neighborhood where there's like extreme poverty. I felt guilty sometimes when I was in the Philippines. Like we went to this one area, I can't remember where it was. Maybe it was like BGC or Makati. And we were like walking down the street and there was like a little kid sleeping on a cardboard box, like just on the side of the street. 10 minutes later, we were in this club and people are like buying bottle service and stuff. And there's like sparklers going off and like people are like throwing money. This just feels wrong. Like we're 1 block away from this. It just doesn't feel right.
When I first moved there, one of my good friends till this day, they were all like local surfers and I would hang out with her all the time. I was able to see like really what you need to get by and all the things like I thought I needed in the States that I don't need now. And also, for example, sometimes I would hang out with her and when we go like eat, we would eat at places and sometimes I would learn like how far 100 pesos can go. Like and some of my foreigner friends, like they want to go to all these like westernized like restaurants where you drop in like 500 pesos on a meal and for them that's cheap or that's normal. For me, and we're in the Philippines, like that's so expensive. Like I'll spend like 150 to like 250 on like a meal and I'm like more than good. And I know if I go to the market with my friends and we're all like chipping in and we're doing a big like food trip or something, people always ask me like how I'm able to continue to survive and live because I'm living so simply. Like my rent, I'm paying so cheap. Like my food I spend so cheaply that you see me, I eat at carinderias. All the places I go to, I try to make sure they're like local, so to support them, and I don't spend a lot. So it's really hard for me to try to even tell people.
And I think there's going to be something very liberating about simplifying your life as well and not needing to adhere to so many kind of cultural norms that maybe we have in the West. With all that being said, after living in the Philippines for 2 years, is there anything you miss about living in the States?
You know what's crazy is I was trying to think about this, and I think the answer is no. I would say the only thing, and I still can't even fully agree to this, is maybe the healthcare. I got a MRSA infection, staph in my eye that was like a month and a half, and I had to get surgery in Cebu twice, and I got in a motorbike accident. I actually almost died. I got hit and my head was first, and thankfully it was only stitches, and I had to get like MRI and CT scan. I couldn't fly, but we didn't have the hospital in Siargao, so I had to take ferry and get transported to like the nearest hospital that had MRI and could equip me. I was so lucky, so lucky. But of course you have to pay out of pocket. But like what I would pay out of pocket was literally fractional to compare to what you have to pay here in the States. So I don't know, like people say the healthcare is not good there, but I mean, in my experience, I was saved. I had all my stuff was always fixed. I had to leave the islands sometimes to do so, but I guess that's maybe the only thing.
So like if you live rurally or like you live in like the provincia, then it's not as accessible for the average person.
For me, that was it. There's not really too many things that I miss here. It's definitely nice to be back and have a little bit of contrast, but I can feel that it's not like where my heart is.
So do you see yourself living in the Philippines forever now, moving forward?
I can't say that because I don't even know what I'm going to do next week sometimes. Like I change my mind a lot. I do. We're never the same person we were like weeks ago, months ago, especially years ago. I don't know. I love it for now. And I think it's always going to be a place that like maybe it's home base if I venture out sometimes, but I do really love it. And for now, it's like where my heart is, and all the experience I have there I will cherish forever.
Yeah, that's fair enough. You never know what's going to happen, right? Because you didn't expect that you were going to end up in the Philippines either, so you never know. Do you have a favorite Filipino food?
Tinola. I love tinola. Do you know what that is?
Quinola, it's like a chicken soup, right?
Yeah, it's basically a chicken soup, but the base is garlic, ginger, and onion. Like usually add like the fish sauce and a sayote or green papaya with the chicken. So it's super healthy. I'm very health conscious. And so I have it probably seriously like every day. And when you cook it, you know, it's a lot. So I usually have some leftovers for some days, and I always get it at the carinderias. I love it. So healthy. So that's definitely my favorite.
And I had some people tell me that tinola is essentially sinigang with chicken. Is that an accurate comparison?
No. So sinigang's base is with tamarind. Usually it's hard to find, so they will have the powder. So it's definitely very different. And then they usually use like tomatoes, sometimes something like a bok choy, but they use definitely different vegetables, even though you still put ginger in and sinigang, but it's very different. The broth itself tastes different. I'm not a big pork eater. I will avoid pork as much as possible. They usually do fish sinigang in Siargao, so I'll go for fish if they have. But one time, my friend, he's a local, we were cooking dinner together. He cooked it, right? And then I made a video after where I was like stirring it, and he was like, Barb, like what's for dinner? Or like, what did you cook? And I told him like, I was like, sinigang gang. And he got close and you could see that it was chicken. And I posted it. It was like a 15-second video. It went viral only because the comment section was fighting, attacking each other, saying that you cannot cook sinigang with chicken. Like more than half of people were agreeing that it was fine. Like, dude, it's not about like the meat, that you can really do it with anything. Of course, maybe it's better, like the heartiness with a pork would probably taste better. But they were just attacking each other. Like, it's because it's a white girl, she doesn't know. And I'm like, little did you know, I didn't cook it. Like, come on, don't attack me.
Well, that's the thing. Like when I was going out with my ex-girlfriend who was Filipina, we would eat sinigang all the time, right? And she made it. I ate it like routinely for 4 years. And I always remember it being chicken. It was always just chicken. And so I thought that that's how it was made. But I mean, I don't know. I also don't eat a lot of pork. So maybe she was changing the recipe for me. I don't know. But because I never went to the Philippines, my only exposure to sinigang is what she made. So I just assumed that, you know, that's what sinigang was. It was with chicken. It's crazy, all of like the different foods that are available in the Philippines that we don't really have access to in the West. I imagine that most of the ingredients weren't readily available in Michigan growing up, you know?
I realized now going back was never very adventurous. We just stuck to like what we knew and things like that. So I think it's so cool to just get out of your comfort zone and see other things, try other foods, everything, you know?
No, that's cool. I definitely appreciate that. I think that Americans and Canadians, we have a bad reputation for not wanting to adapt to other cultures. Like we're pretty set in our ways. It's really cool to see how much you've really embraced Filipino culture and cuisine and lifestyle. And I can tell that you are authentically and genuinely passionate about the culture and the people. And so that's it's a really awesome thing to see. And one of the reasons that I love doing this on my channel, I get to connect with people that are like-minded, even though they're from different backgrounds and different countries, we kind of have this thing in common, this mutual love and respect for the Philippines. And so it's always cool to connect with people that are like that.
Are you fluent in Tagalog?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like I hear some the way you speak it, it's so like it's amazing. So, like you motivate me to be able to get there because sometimes when it's like seems so hard, but when I see you, it's very very inspiring.
Oh, you can do it. Don't worry, you'll get it, no problem. My Tagalog isn't perfect. I've just been speaking it for like 10 years or whatever, and so I can say what I want to say and I can understand what people are saying, but I still make mistakes, definitely.
Okay, it's part of the process,
Yeah. That's true.
So where you grew up was like not that much diversity and stuff. So at what point were you exposed to be able to learn like Tagalog and stuff like that?
I was 18 when I started learning Tagalog. I met a girl here in Canada that was from the Philippines and we started dating.
Filipinos, a lot of them speak English, which is just so impressive, especially in Siargao. It's if you speak Bisaya, they also speak Tagalog. So which is so cool. It's like you speak 3 languages. Like how cool is that? When I moved to the Philippines, I respect this culture so much. I feel like I want to learn. And that is some of the most accomplishing feelings. I don't know if you can relate to that, but the moment it kind of starts to click and you can conversate a little bit or you understand like a joke too. The jokes things are like what really makes me happy when somebody says things and it's like a joke and I actually like comprehended it. And like it's really feels accomplished me.
Understanding jokes and also being able to tell jokes and have people laugh is like such a rewarding feeling. It's so satisfying.